One of the great things about being a baseball fan is there's always that next great crop of prospects coming up. Sometimes they become legends, and sometimes they get traded and throw an ice cream sandwich at a human being. In this episode, the top Yankees prospects for the 2025 season. We'll break down our favorite prospects, tell you who should be untouchable in trades and who could be used as trade bait. This is Pinstripe Territory.
Just wanted to talk, that's all.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. 2025 Yankees Prospect Deep Dive. I am Derek Lewandowski, the host of Pinstripe Territory. This is my co-host, Terrence Kem, out there in California. How you doing out there, TK?
Doing pretty good. Good to be back. I hope everyone had a good holiday, good New Year, got a haircut finally.
Now, before the podcast, I gave one instruction to Terrence. I said, this is going to be an evergreen podcast because we want to talk Yankees prospects. So if somebody picks it up in July, we want it to be just as good as if they watched in January. So I said, one quick thing. Let's not mention the holiday. Let's not mention the New Year. So right away, TK, breaking all the rules. All right, let's talk a little bit about this top prospect list that we got here for the Yankees. We got our top 20 prospects. We're going to go over everybody in detail and kind of tell you who we think should be untouchable and talk about, who we might use as trade bait. And then we'll each have a sleeper pick. One guy from the bottom 10, numbers 11 through 20, that we would pick to be like a guy who could really break through and make an impact. So let's go ahead and get started with the
right there in front of us.
Top 20.
What do you say?
All right, TK. So there are the top 20 prospects. Let me go ahead and run it down for the people who are listening. So we got Yoendrys Gomez at number 20, Clayton Beeter at 19, Zach Messenger number 18, Jorbit Vivas number 17, Edgleen Perez at number 16, number 15, Francisco Vilorio. 14 is Brando Mayea, Cuban prospect. Number 13, Cade Smith. Number 12, Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz. Yankees just picked him up from Boston. Number 11 is Henry Lalane, who I just learned how to pronounce his name correctly. I was putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. We got Everson Pereira, who was a big prospect not too long ago, had kind of a tough year last year. Number 10, Bryce Cunningham and Ben Hess, two college pitchers the Yankees just drafted. And then Brock Selvidge, Chase Hampton, Will Warren, all pitchers. Brock Selvidge is left-handed. Roderick Arias and George Lombard Jr., both infielders, both young. Spencer Jones and Jasson Dominguez, likely Yankees starting left fielder, is number 1. So TK, just overall, before we go into the prospect by prospect breakdown, how you feeling about our farm this year?
Well, Bleacher Report, for one, isn't feeling too great. I believe we're ranked the 29th best farm system in the league currently. I think a lot of that has to do with some of the guys have graduated. We've traded some guys, so there's a couple of reasons for that. But I think with the Yankees, they'll be able to kind of restock. I think there was one of the top international prospects they were looking at signing too with some of the bonus pool money, but we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, there's definitely some names on here that I like a lot. I'm the noted Spencer Jones lover on this show that I've always been super high on the guy. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Jasson Dominguez, obviously the guy is probably going to be starting in left or center, one of the two with Bellinger, however they decide to kind of line that up. Jorbit Vivas, a name, I remember I was calling him Jorbit, but it's Jorbit, pronounced with like a Y sound. They got him in a trade. But yeah, I really like the Hess and Cunningham draft picks. Everson Pereira, we saw a little bit of him. And then George Lombard Jr., I think that's a guy that we really should be excited about.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the bottom. Let's go through these guys one by one. Let's start with Gomez here. Yoendrys Gomez.
Swing and a miss. Gomez showing off.
We saw him the last couple of years, made his major league debut in 2023. Fastball sits 92 to 95 miles an hour. He's got 13 and a third career innings in the major leagues with 14 strikeouts, 3.97 ERA. Throws a curve, a slider, and a cutter. He is currently the Yankees' number 20 prospect out of Venezuela, signed for a meager $50,000 back in 2016. I liked what I saw from him. I like his stuff. I like his mechanics. I feel like he could be one of those guys who could break through and be a bullpen piece this year, maybe a spot starter. What'd you think, of Gomez from the little that we've seen of him in the major leagues the last couple of years?
Yeah, I got his baseball reference page up here, so just looking at it, you really haven't seen that much. I mean, literally 11 and a third innings this past season. So, but yeah, he's got pretty good stuff. That heater at the top of the zone works pretty well. I kind of see him more a pretty high whip though, 1.588 whip in those 11 innings. With a 5.81 FIP. So not like numbers that are jumping off the page there, but he's got good stuff. I think you could translate in the Matt Blake Black Magic lab that he's got over there and see if he can really kind of turn him into like a solid middle reliever that can eat some innings. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a superstar, all-star type reliever, but can he eat some innings for us? Yeah, I think that there's definitely some stuff in there for sure.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind for these prospects, everybody, is one, everybody's a work in progress at this point. A lot of these guys have not peaked. They haven't reached their final form. Sometimes you'll see bad stats in the minor leagues, and that won't necessarily translate to the type of player they are because they're working on things, especially pitchers. Like, they'll intentionally throw pitches that are not their strongest pitch because they're trying to develop it. They'll throw it in certain counts and hitters counts, things like that. They're trying to get better. So don't read too much into stats. Look more at like stuff at prospect scouting reports at this, at the younger ages. Let's get into number 19, a guy we got for Joey Gallo.
Yeah, it'll be
Mr. Clayton
in
Beeter.
there for strike 3.
Clayton Beeter made his major league debut this year, 6'2", 220. I always felt like he looks like a Roger Clemens type of body, like very strong forearms, very strong legs. He did have a shoulder injury this year that limited his time, but he was dominant when he was out there. 2.08 ERA, 39 innings, 56 strikeouts in the minors, 19 hits, 1 home run, 21 walks. He is the Yankees' 19th overall prospect. He pitched a little bit in the major leagues. He showcased some pretty good stuff. I mean, 96, 97 mile-an-hour fastball. Slider looks pretty good. I think there's room to improve there. And obviously, once somebody starts to have shoulder issues, there's always a little bit of concern there. But, I'm one of the few people who's pretty high on Clayton Beeter. I would have him ranked higher than 19th in my list. But one of the reasons he's kind of ranked so low is because he is 26 years old. He's a little bit older. He's had some injury issues, some injury concerns. What are your thoughts on Clayton Beeter?
Hey, listen, the fact that we got him for Joey Gallo, that's like a W in itself. The fact that we were able to get something back other than a bag of balls for Joey Gallo. But yeah, like you said, 26 years old, we're starting to get to that expiration date a little bit for prospects, which is really harsh to say because like 26-year-old it's really not that old, but in baseball world it is. He's got good stuff. We've seen a little bit from him. The shoulder injury is concerning to me, Derek. Usually with pitchers, shoulder problems is not really a good sign. I'd much rather a pitcher get Tommy John surgery. Obviously, we've kind of perfected that surgery. It's just like a year off and you come back. But shoulder problems, it's not really something that is such a cut and dry, hey, you got surgery, you come back in a year, right. Which TJ is. That's why when we traded away Nestor, I wasn't like super beat up about it. I loved him, but like shoulder problems as well. So Clayton Beeter, yeah, I think he could be, again, solid middle relief bullpen piece, but the shoulder problems are a little bit concerning to me.
Yeah, I think about Michael Pineda, who the Yankees got for Jesus Montero, former top prospect, the one who threw the ice cream sandwich at the guy that we mentioned in the intro. We got Pineda, and immediately he tore his labrum, and he was never the same. He was dominant with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball with Seattle. Once he came over to the Yankees, he was never quite the same. Let's talk a little bit about number 18. Zach Messenger. He is 25 years old. The fastball can touch 99 miles an hour. I'm very high on this guy. 6'6", 171 pounds, so he's wiry, strong. There's different body types, right? We look at Clayton Beeter, we see a guy who's big and strong and just uses all of his mass to generate velocity. Zach Messenger's the guy who has that whip-like arm action, kind of like Luis Heel. Strong, but in a wiry kind of way. 3.06 ERA in the minor leagues, 150 innings, 136 strikeouts, so less than a strikeout per inning, but I like his mechanics. Former 13th round draft pick, the fact that he's up this high on the list is kind of an achievement in itself. But I like what I'm seeing from Zach Messenger in just the little bit that I've looked at in terms of highlights and scouting reports. I like the slider. It's getting better. It's got more of a one plane than you'd like. You like to have a little more depth. But any thoughts on Zach Messenger?
He has a cool name. Messenger messages as a pitch. I don't know. You could play around with that, but I like him a lot too. I really like his delivery. He's got kind of that really good whip action, that wiry frame. I don't think he's going to be Jacob deGrom, but Jacob deGrom has a little bit of that. He's like very tall and wiry and kind of just whips it through there, throws very hard. Coming out of UVA, good baseball school, good pitching school. I really like his stuff. And like, yeah, the breaking ball, it is getting better, like you said, but I think the ball, the way it comes out of his hand is really nice. It's a very like effortless heat, which is always what you like to see. You could probably pack on a few pounds a little bit too and kind of protect his body a little bit if you wanted to. I don't think it's really necessary, but I think for the slider, maybe they play around with his grip and make it more of like a 12-6 curve and try to get on top of that thing a little bit more, just to get a little bit more of that depth you were talking about coming off the high heat. That would be pretty effective, I think. And then I don't know whether he profiles as a starter or reliever. He's pretty much starting games in the minors right now, right?
Yeah, he's been starting.
So 25 games started last season. He actually had a really nice season in Somerset. So you said don't buy into the stats too much, but I am for him because they're good. So,
we buy into the stats that support what we want to be true. Yeah,
exactly. I am a fan, Derek, but I do like him a lot. I like his stuff, and I'd like to hold on to him. I think that Double-A this year, I think it's possible he cracks the roster in September or maybe a little bit earlier than that if there are some injuries. I hope that there are not, but you never know. It's baseball, and pitchers get hurt.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm going to put him on my short list for when we pick our sleeper picks later on in the show. Talk about Jorbit Vivas.
Hitting the air well to right field. That ball is gone as Vivas clubs it.
I think that announcer said Bebos. He has advanced bat-to-ball skills, 5'9", 171 pounds, so he's not a huge guy. He can play second. He can play third. 225 average last year. He had an orbital fracture, really struggled to come back from that. There was some talk in spring training that maybe he could make the team, and then he got hurt. 9 home runs, 76 strikeouts, 63 walks, so he doesn't strike out a ton. That's in 101 minor league games this year. 17th overall prospect. The Yankees got him in a trade from the Los Angeles Dodgers, like so many of their prospects. I tell you what, those Dodgers, they got a first-class Yankees farm system over there. They're giving us multiple prospects over the last few years. Any thoughts on Vivas?
It's funny you mentioned that the team that's like that for us is like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like we just kind of, that's our farm system.
Right.
Vivas, I don't know. You tell me there, Derek, but whenever I look at Jorbit Vivas, who I thought it was Jorbit for like the longest time, but Jorbit Vivas, whenever I watch him play, I just see Rougned Odor.
Very similar swing, very similar stance, and he's got the big leg kick. I've never been a huge fan of big leg kicks. I feel like that's a lot of movement. It works for some guys, but I don't. Gleyber Torres, I always felt like he hit better when he got rid of the leg kick and just went to kind of like a tap, right? And then there's some guys, like if you're a power hitter, it works great for prime Josh Donaldson, but as he got older, that leg kick really was a hindrance because it limited his reaction time, I think. So, I don't love the leg kick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that high on him. I think it's nice to have him as some depth in the minor leagues if, again, there's an injury, but I don't really see him anything more than that. Again, when I watch him play, I see a lot of Rougned Odor, the same kind of body type, same position, second base, same swing. He has played a little bit of left field, it looks like, so maybe he can turn into like a utility piece if he's got that athleticism, but I don't really see much more than that for him, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the cooler names. They got a lot of cooler names, Messenger, Vivas, and Edgleen Perez. Kind of reminds me of the serial killer Ed Gein. Defensively polished catcher. He's one of the few Yankees in the system that's more of a contact approach guy. He's very patient. Not much power to speak of yet. He's only 19 years old. 272 average, 2 home runs, 66 strikeouts, 75 walks. So he walked more than he struck out. Yankees number 16 overall prospect. I really don't know much about him. I've never seen him play. I've never seen him in spring training or anything like that. But as it looks, he's the only catcher in our top 20 right now. So,
Yeah, I don't really know much about him as well. Just generally with these younger guys when they're 18, 19 years old out of the Dominican Republic or Cuba, Venezuela, whatever. Generally when they're that young, you haven't seen a ton of them. You don't know much about him, but he is our highest rated catcher, and we did just trade away Jose Trevino. So the catching depth is a little thin.
And Narvaez.
Yeah, and Arvaez as well. So the catching depth is a little thin. I think they probably will address that through free agency, but that's a different video. Um, cool first name, like you said, Edgleen. Never heard that before, but contact approach, interesting. He's not that big, 5'10", 155, but what makes me kind of throw up in my mouth here is that he's born in 2006.
So he's younger
So
than
that
you.
was 3 years before the 2009 championship. We're getting to a point, Derek, where our prospects are going to not be born in the
Wow.
lifespan of a Yankee championship. It's
Got
gonna
to
happen.
win one soon. Got to win one
Gotta
soon.
win one soon. Yep.
All right, let's move on to Francisco Vilorio. Another guy that is on the younger side, just 18 years old, top international signee in 24. They didn't give him as much money as they have to recent prospects like Arias or Dominguez, just $1.75 million out of the Dominican. Elite bat speed, potential power. Swing and miss has been a problem for him, and it's one of the things that scouts say. He's one of the guys who sells out for power, and hit 196 with 4 home runs, 8 stolen bases, 8 doubles in 42 professional games so far. I kind of like guys who develop power over time. Typically, if a young player is like selling out for power already, it doesn't say a lot about. Like, I've seen so many guys come along like that just don't make it. Once you see better minor leagues or better nearer major league stuff, those guys fall off the map. They can't hit a great curveball that's spotted or a great slider.
Yeah. Yeah, guys who sell out for power. It's kind of like a major league Serrano can hit, hit the crap
Exactly.
out of the ball, but he just swings out of his shoes for a breaking ball.
And by the way, I'm not saying this guy's going to be like that. It's just that approach. It's a red flag for me.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I don't really love another cool name, by the way, but I don't really love the sell out for power approach, especially at a young age like that. When you're trying to adjust to professional pitching, because even down there, they're still throwing hard. The stuff's still nasty. Like, you got to make adjustments, and also it's good for the confidence to like hit the ball and hit the ball well. If you strike out a lot, that kind of messes with you mentally, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But with prospects at this age in the islands like that, I will say a quick story. I went down to the DR when I was 16 to play against those kids. And this is when I realized that I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player. But we played against a guy who signed with the Kansas City Royals for $2 million. His name was Jasson Guzman, Jeison. And this guy signed for like $2 million, and he was one of their top 10 prospects. He never made it out of high A. And this was one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. Guy was hitting missiles, smoothest hands I've ever seen. So, like, you just don't know. And he was ranked high. So for this, yeah, the swing out of your shoes approach, all for power, not really a huge fan for that. But maybe I'm wrong. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about another guy who has a lot of upside. Maybe some Yankees fans have heard of him, Brando Mayea. He was an international signee, another high-dollar guy, $4.35 million out of Cuba. Elite speed and plus arm strength. He seems like one of these great baseball player kind of guys. Contact hitter, potential leadoff guy in the future, already in 73 professional games, 279 average, 370 on base percentage with 41 stolen bases. So he's a guy who gets on base and then has elite speed once he's there. Not a huge power guy. I'm okay with that. I think they need more contact and speed guys in the organization just to give them some options. The Yankees roster tends to get a little bit clunky from time to time. Now, he's young, 19, but we're seeing players get to the major leagues quicker and quicker. I think he's a guy who could be up at like 21, 22 if he has a really good couple of years in the minors. Like, he profiles as one of these guys who's going to move quickly.
No, for sure. I'm seeing here that this past year he played in rookie ball. Is that right? So
Yeah.
He's probably going to start in, I would think, high A ball. I would think he'll start.
Well,
Tampa.
maybe Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
They might put him in. They did that with Dominguez. They put Dominguez in Hudson Valley for like a month, and then you move on to Tampa.
So one of the two. He's not going to start super high up in the system, but I do really like the numbers there. And again, I think speed and athleticism, the way the game is headed, the direction we're going in, I think is probably going to reward speed and athleticism with the new rules. With you can only pick off twice, and they're trying to promote athleticism on the base pass. So I think that's really going to help him, and it's really going to benefit from that. So this is definitely a guy I think who could potentially make an impact at the major league level in maybe, let's say, 2 or 3 years.
Let's talk a little bit about Cade Smith, not the pitcher for the Guardians. It's the Yankees prospect. Cade Smith, another pitcher. Bats lefty, throws righty, 6'1", 190. He's got a really good slider. Polished college pitcher. Fastball can top out at 97. In his debut season in the professional ranks last year at A and A+, 6-7 record. Don't worry too much about the win-loss. 3.65 ERA, so solid, polished pitcher. Number 13 overall prospect, 6th round draft pick in 2023. He's going to be 23 years old this season. He's somebody to keep an eye on that could move quickly. Like, he's the type of guy that is like a polished college pitcher, and the Yankees have a few of those guys. And I noticed that's one of the reasons that they drafted Ben Hess and Bryce Cunningham, because in recent years they've traded, the J.P. Sears and the Ken Waldichuk and what was the Vasquez guy to I forget his first name, that got traded for Soto. So Randy Vasquez, that's right. His name was escaping me. I feel like they're trying to replenish the coffers a little bit with some of these polished college pitchers. There's been talk in recent years about, maybe the minor leagues getting completely streamlined, like to where it's like one minor league level, almost like a G League, and then college baseball becomes like the new minor leagues. Thoughts on all that?
I've been saying that for the last 10 years, that college football and college basketball are both basically a minor league for the NBA and the NFL. And I know that baseball as a sport, it's hard to do that just because hitting a baseball is so hard, and you kind of need to like incrementally make it more and more difficult. And I think that a lot of times guys are going to kind of drown if they go right to the major leagues, right? There are special players that skip all that, right? But mostly with pitchers, right? Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, like those guys just like skip the minors, but you don't really see that with hitters as much. So if it were me, I think I would probably do 2 minor leagues. I would do AAA and I would do like rookie ball. And then I would have this huge gap between the two. And then college baseball would be obviously, kind of the other minor league.
Interesting idea. Yeah, I mean, Skeens through the minors very fast. It occasionally happens with position players, but usually it's guys like Pujols, Juan Soto, like legendary hitters,
Trout.
right? Yeah, Trout. It doesn't happen that often. Dominguez was only in the minor leagues for 2 years, didn't have amazing stats, but he moved really quickly. So did Anthony Volpe. So, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about a guy that we just picked up. Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz just picked him up from Boston. Already the Yankees' number 12 prospect, 6'3", 160 pounds. So another, wiry kind of guy. 98-mile-an-hour fastball, throws a slider, a curve, and a splitter. 2.60 ERA in 183 minor league innings. 195 strikeouts, 85 walks. So the walks are a bit of a concern. That's more walks than you want. 1.22 whip. The numbers look good. And this is one of those spots, like you said, I choose to believe because the numbers support what I want to be true, that he could be a great pitcher. But 2.60 ERA, not easy no matter what level you're in. Traded to the Yankees from the Red Sox for Carlos Narvaez just a couple of weeks ago. Any thoughts on Rodriguez-Cruz?
Hey, 98 miles an hour with a split, that'll play. That'll play pretty much anywhere. I think he probably is better as a reliever than a starter. Also, the Yankees are pretty good at starter right now. I think bullpen pieces are better. But yeah, I think that he's only 21 years old as well. And the guy was an A-ball last year with Boston, so he could you could stick him in Double-A and just see how he does, and then if he does really well, I guess stick him in Triple-A, see how he does, and then if there's an injury, bring him up. I wouldn't really be that surprised if we see him this year at some point later on, especially if there is an injury, but just to eat some innings. But yeah, 98 with a split, I don't even need 2 other pitches. How about just concentrate on those 2 and we'll be fine.
Be a lights-out relief pitcher, yeah. So we just had a mention of Drew Thorpe in the chat, so I wanted to check in and see how he did statistically this year because he was part of the Soto trade. Ended up going to the White Sox later on for the Dylan Cease trade. And in the major leagues, he went 3-3 with a 5.89 ERA in 9 starts, 44 and a third innings, 25 strikeouts. But in the minors, 7-1 with a 1.35 ERA. So he dominated Double-A with the with Chicago White Sox. So, look, sometimes they're a hit, sometimes they're not. I was always skeptical over Drew Thorpe because he didn't have a great fastball, right? That's the biggest indicator of success, and his was not great. All right, so here is one of the other guys on my sleeper possibility list, and that is Henry Lalane.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Strikeout number 2 of the ball game for Lalane.
6'7", 211 pounds. Fastball sits at 95 miles an hour, and he's got one of the most disgusting changeups I've ever seen. He has a Johan Santana changeup. It's disgusting. He's got a body frame like Chris Sale. If I were the Yankees, I would drop him down, have him throw 3/4 or sidearm, just make him even nastier. 3.86 ERA in 123 MILB innings, minor league innings. 138 strikeouts, 52 walks, and a 1.25 whip. Yankees number 11 overall prospect, just 20 years old, signed out of the Dominican Republic in 2021 for $350,000. I am a big believer in Henry Lalane.
Well, I thought his name was Lalane until literally tonight. But
so did I.
Yeah, but tonight, I mean, the guy's got nasty stuff. Even that little highlight video, that change was absolutely gross. 6'7", 211, so 6'7", taller pitchers, especially lefties, even just hitting that is hard just because of the angle, the way the ball comes in. I guess you would mitigate a little bit of that if you drop him down, but then it's like he's like throwing like 6 feet outside of the box, and you don't even know what you're doing with yourself at that point. But born in the Bronx too, so it's clearly destiny. But I really like his stuff. I would hold on to him pretty tightly. I would not give him up easily. And this is a guy, like you said, Johan Santana stuff. Usually fastball changeup guys, I kind of like to see them as starters more, but he's still really young. He's only 211, which is for his frame not that heavy, and I think they could pack on a couple more pounds on there and maybe make him throw even harder. But yeah, this is definitely a guy who I think could be a really good player for us.
Well, listen, Mr. Hollywood actor, most people gain weight in their early 20s, unlike you. But most people put on that freshman 15 in college or whatever. Yeah, I think he'll pack on some, especially when you're that tall and you grow that fast. Like, it's tough to fill out, right? So, over the next few years, I'm sure he'll gain some muscle, gain some weight. All right, let's talk about Everson Pereira.
A walk-off home run for Everson Pereira.
27 games played in 2023. Didn't really impress. 151 average, no home runs, 10 RBIs. I was disappointed he didn't hit a home run. Played a whole month. I was hoping he would get that first major league dinger out of the way. Had elbow surgery last year. Came back, played okay. 265 average, 10 home runs, 858 OPS in 2024. 48 games in AAA. He's the Yankees' number 10 overall prospect. Signed out of Venezuela back in 2018. We've been talking about him since this channel began. 24 years old this year. Still has light tower power, but when he came up, it was clear that he was overmatched because he wasn't ready to hit the big league slider. I mean, that's just what it is. He just couldn't hit a big league slider. And until he fixes that, to me, he's one of those guys that you got to consider as like a potential, he's blocked, maybe use him as trade bait.
I definitely think trade this guy. I think they should have traded him last deadline, but he was hurt, so that kind of got in the way there. I think the outfield will be. It's all right. So there's Cody Bellinger, there's Aaron Judge, and there's the Martian, and they got some other players that could play out there as well. Shout out to you, Terrence P, spelt the same way as me. Shout out to a fellow Terrence out there, Luis Medina. I remember that was a name I was high on, didn't do anything, but. Yeah. Everson Pereira, yeah, definitely trade him. I would try to trade him. I don't really think there's a place for him. And also, Kyle Tucker will be a free agent next year. I will be really upset if they're not all over that.
All in.
I would give him $400-500 million. Yeah. I don't think he will sign an extension now. I think he looks at Juan Soto and what he got. I would be stupid to not go to free agency. Yep. I'd be all over that. So I just don't think that there's going to be a place for Everson Pereira in the Yankees outfield in the future. Even if Aaron Judge ends up being a DH first baseman sort of guy later on in his contract, Kyle Tucker will slide into right anyway. So I don't really see it.
The one thing that worries me about Steve Cohen is that he's like psycho with his money and he wants to get everybody. It worries me that he's going to get the two big guys next year, Kyle Tucker and Vladdy Guerrero. Now, if the Mets don't sign Pete Alonso, that opens up first base, and I think Vladdy Guerrero is a fait accompli to go to the Mets. And that might allow the Yankees to sneak in and sign Tucker while the Mets are focusing on Vladdy. That's my hope of what will happen.
I actually don't see the Mets being so high on Tucker, to be honest with you, just because they have Soto already. I feel like Tucker doesn't, he's a great player, a stud, like comparable to Soto numbers, a little, maybe a tick below, but he doesn't have like the star power that Juan Soto has, just the name alone.
But he's a winning player, man. And Steve
player.
Cohen wants to win. Like, so anyway, and Cohen wants to. He's playing MLB The Show while everybody else is playing with real money. Like he's got monopoly money. All right, just a quick reminder to everybody who is joining for the first time, maybe checking this podcast out for the first time, maybe has checked out a few podcasts. Go ahead and like the video and subscribe. These podcasts, as you can imagine, take an immense amount of work and a long time. I spent a couple of days working on all these player profiles, so they're all free, obviously. Go ahead and sign, go ahead and subscribe, and that'll help, build the channel, and we'll be more rewarded for our labor. Terrence doesn't really do any labor; he just shows up, but it's all good. All right, let's talk a little bit about Bryce Cunningham, Yankees second round pick last year. I tell you what, I love this guy from what I've seen. 6'5", 230, 97 mile an hour fastball, power changeup. We know what Matt Blake does with changeups. Vanderbilt guy, so he is a guy who has just a bright head on his shoulders. Has not made his pro debut. Number 9 overall prospect, 53rd overall pick. From what I hear, he's very polished, and I think he's going to be another one of these guys that can help replenish the farm.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. He comes out of Vanderbilt. That's like a factory, that program over there. Volpe was committed there where he signed, right? So I'm pretty high on him as well. Big dude, 6'5", 230. Yeah. So usually with pitchers, it's weird, right? Size is usually good with pitching. It's kind of like basketball. It's kind of like basketball. You can't be 6'7", and you can't be like 6'2" and play power forward. You just can't. So Charles Barkley. But yeah, Bryce Cunningham, 6'5", 230, power fastball. I like it a lot. And coming out of Vandy, yeah, I'm pretty confident in that. That's just a factory.
All right, so let's move on to another college pick. This was their number 1 pick last year. This is Ben Hess. And I hope that if he makes the major leagues, they give away those little Hess trucks with a Yankees logo, because I would be there. I used to get those things all the time when I was a kid for Christmas. Anyway, another Lance Lynn type of pitcher, 6'5", 255, just a big burly dude. Fastball's 92 to 96, 7-6 with a 4.25 ERA in AA. Yankees number 8 prospect. I feel good about Ben Hess. I think he's got a real chance to do some damage.
Yeah, he's got good stuff. Again, Alabama, great program. More of a football school, but whatever. They didn't make the playoff, though. Double A had some pretty solid numbers. I think.
You know what? I think I have a typo. I think he didn't. Did he not pitch in Double A? I think I was getting my stats somewhere else. That might have been left over from somewhere.
On Baseball Reference here, I have him in Alabama last year.
Okay, so
5-5 with a 5.8 ERA last year for Alabama. 68 innings, 68 and a third innings pitched with a 1.39 WHIP. Okay, so like nothing really that impressive, but he's got good stuff. Another really big dude, 6'5", 255. I think I'm more high on Cunningham than I am with Hess. But again, I don't really think it's anything to sneeze at,
Yeah, we got to figure out what was up with that stats. I think we had a copy and paste error right quick. But let's talk a little bit about Brock Selvidge. This is the guy we saw in spring training, left-handed pitcher, who's really a slider cutter guy, 92 to 95 with life. I guess he was the 7-6 guy, so it was just copy and paste. So Yankees number 7 prospect, Florida State League All-Star in 2023, 23 years old, 3rd round draft pick. Makes funny faces when he's pitching. I like his mechanics. Like I like those guys who kind of hide the ball when they're see how he's kind of hiding it behind his back shoulder there. I think of Billy Wagner, guys like that. I don't want to compare him to Billy Wagner, obviously different type of pitcher, but a deceptive release.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays, especially when you're getting to this level. You kind of trying to get every sort of edge. And then a funky kind of release is always going to be tougher to pick up on. That's how Nestor made a living, right?
Yeah.
I think that the mechanics are interesting, and the way that he hides the ball is going to be effective. He's got pretty good stuff. A lefty, you always like that. But again, for him, kind of depth for me. Like that's kind of how I profile it.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys, first round draft pick that, I mean, you could see them trading him and selling it as we're giving you our first round draft pick, right? Or you could see him advancing quickly, right? You could see him being a guy who moves up the ladder, kind of like Jabba Chamberlain or Ian Kennedy, a polished kind of guy. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. All right, let's talk a little bit about Chase Hampton now. Is that where we're at? Chase Hampton.
We are at Chase Hampton.
All right, Chase Hampton, a guy we've been hearing the last couple of years. Fastball can touch 99 miles an hour. Had an elbow injury last year. Mustache is really bad. He's got to get rid of the mustache. If you can't grow it, don't grow it. Developing a cutter and slider. Made 7 starts in the minors. 0-1, 2.41 ERA, 1.07 WHIP. Drafted in the 6th round in 2022. Looks to me like he's got a pretty good curveball too. We haven't seen him very much. There's the breaking ball that he dropped in. I feel like he's one of these guys who could, be a contender if the Yankees have an injury to step in, and fill in a spot. We've been hearing so much about him for the last few years. That means he's one of these polished type of pitchers. The Yankees believe in him, so he would be like high on my list. I'd rather see him than Will Warren, obviously, who's next, but we'll talk about him.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like not really a ton to say. That mustache is absolutely horrific. I'm looking at his Baseball Reference profile picture right now, and it just looks there's like a full inch of space between the two hair parts here on his lip. It looks pretty rough. So he should get rid of that. But yeah, not really a whole lot to go off of for him. 2 seasons in the minors with a 1.13 WHIP. Okay, so that's okay. A little bit more than one base runner per inning. A 3.45 ERA. Again, it's fine. I like him. I'm not super high on him, to be honest. I know a lot of people are. But I would be more open in trading him, to be honest, because I think some of these guys that are lower on the list, pitchers, are going to move up pretty quickly, especially the younger guys.
Speaking of moving quickly, I think Will Warren moved a little bit too quickly. He made his Yankees debut and did not impress me. He's another one of these guys who's been a top prospect for years. 29 strikeouts in 22 and 2/3 innings, so he can miss bats, but a 10.32 ERA. And then a 5.91 ERA in AAA. I'm not sure what they see in this guy. Did not impress me. Again, I don't want to be rough, but I want to keep it real for the people who are out there watching. I just didn't see it. I didn't see what everybody's in love with.
I say this with the hope that I am proven wrong. I don't like him. I'm not. He's 26. He's been a prospect forever. He got lit up when he got to the major leagues. He's 6'2", 172. Okay, cool. He throws kind of like a mid fastball. It's not really like anything that impressive. His numbers in the minors are like fine. And if he's ranked as the 5th best prospect, I would definitely try. Like honestly, Will Warren and Chase Hampton, like to me, those are both expendable arms that I would trade.
Yeah, it sounds like you would be wheeling and dealing a lot from the system there, TK, if you were running things. Let's go to number 4. This is Roderick Arias, a guy who's been on the radar for the last couple of years.
The first pitch and crushes it down the right field line.
Another top international signee, elite defender. He's got another one of these big leg kicks, power approach. He's got good bat speed, switch hitter, above average patience. 183 career games in the minor leagues, 232 average, 13 home runs, 763 OPS. Signed for $4.4 million internationally, was a top international prospect. He's another one of these guys that is toolsy, but it hasn't translated in the numbers yet. But one day, it might break through. Any thoughts on Roderick Arias?
Switch hitter, young, but. And I really love his defense is spectacular. But tell me this, Derek. So there's obviously Roderick Arias, and then we'll get to him in a second. But George Lombard Jr. is right above him there, and they play Both are shortstops. Both are the same age. And I'm afraid to say that I almost see like a Peraza Volpe situation sort of developing, where one guy gets to the big leagues and he's kind of blocking the other guy, and then they
Yeah.
kind of let the other guy rot a little bit and they don't do anything with him. So for me, especially since Volpe's already a shortstop, and it looks like maybe he kind of fizzles out and they ended up moving on. I don't know, but the hope is that he's going to be the shortstop for a while, right? And then one of these guys either moves to like third or second, or maybe even the outfield, and they transition there. But I just feel like finding a place for both of these guys on the roster for starting time will be difficult, and it are probably best in trading one of them.
So here's what the Yankees like to do. They like to keep these guys at shortstop like they did Trey Sweeney, because it maximizes their trade value, especially if they're good defensively. But the problem is they also hug their prospects most of the time. They don't trade them, and so they get blocked like Peraza did. I think that if you're planning for Volpe to be your long-term shortstop, you got to get these guys off a shortstop. Get one at second, get one at third, and just let them develop into that next, core. But again, Arias, I don't know how he's going to develop. I'm suspect of those guys with the huge leg kicks, like I said. So, we'll see. Here's somebody we got to talk about, Mr. George Lombard Jr.
Summer of George!
Summer of George! 311 in his pro debut a couple years ago. Elite baseball IQ and instincts. I don't know if there's ever been a prospect who looks more like a Yankee. Kind of looks like Carlos Correa a little bit. I don't know if anybody else sees that. But 231 average, 5 home runs, 822 OPS last year. Versatile infielder. He projects as a long-term shortstop, but he can play both second and third. Number 3 overall prospect, just 20 years old. Drafted in the first round with the 26th overall pick in the 2023 draft pick. He looks athletic. We got to see him in the Major League camp last year, and he looked fantastic. Hit a couple of home runs. Big time prospect, in my opinion. This is a guy that the Yankees are very, very high on, and I would definitely consider putting him on my untouchable list that we're about to go through in just a minute. Thoughts on Lombard Jr.?
I love George Lombard Jr. And what I was alluding to before, trade one of them, Roderick Arias or George Lombard Jr., I'd be trading Roderick Arias out of the two of them. George Lombard Jr. is a guy that I think very highly of. He's a guy who comes from like a baseball family. His dad played in the league. He's the bench coach for the Tigers. There's a cool picture there with Aaron Judge. This is a clip from the youth prospects video about his brother, actually, and it's kind of like a day in their lives. And they got a bunch of like cool baseball memorabilia around the house like that, including that one. So I thought that was kind of cool, the full circle moment there. But this is a guy that I'm really high on. He kind of does remind me a lot of Carlos Correa. They look similar, and also the swing as well. I feel like they should move him to third and let him develop there. He kind of profiles that way physically as well, I think. But this is a guy, if you watch that video, there's one thing that stands out to me very clearly. This guy is a professional. This guy's been living his life like a professional since he was like 13 years old.
Let's take a look at his swing again, because I want to bring up the point that I was talking to Terrence about this, and we're going to show this again. His swing reminds me of Mike Trout, how he kind of hits against a closed front side. And, I mean, this is uncanny. If you watch Mike Trout highlights, and I'm not comparing him to Trout. Trout's a once-in-a-generation, but similar type of swing where he gets inside of the baseball, hits against that closed front side. I mean, it's hard not to be ecstatic about a guy who's had the success he's had at his age and has a swing like that.
Yeah, and it's really just about the way that he like lives his life every day. Like, I'm serious, watch the video. I've never seen, at the time I think he was 19, but I've never seen somebody that young sort of live like a 30-year-old vet who takes care of his body and like eats freaking like avocado ice cream like Tom Brady does. And like I said, his dad was in the game. He's a bench coach. So he's been like training like a major leaguer for a long time. So the way that he lives his life shows a lot about him and the way that he prepares, and I think he'll be successful.
Avocado ice cream sounds absolutely disgusting. So I mentioned this on another podcast. I have diabetes, so I have to eat a lot of sugar-free, just disgusting tasting stuff. Like if I want sweets, I've got to have sugar-free strawberry wafers and stuff like that. And they're gross, but avocado ice cream sounds like it's taking it to another level. But I'm really anxious to see how George Lombard Jr. Develops. Let's talk about Spencer Jones, your boy. Big dude, 6'6" with power and speed. Tommy John surgery back when he was a two-way player in 2020. Last year, 259 at AA, 17 home runs, 200 strikeouts in AA. That's the big red flag for me. 25 stolen bases. Also went to Vanderbilt. Good head on his shoulders. Yankees number 2 overall prospect. Just a big, gigantic dude. Left-handed. Been compared to, left-handed Aaron Judge. Extremely athletic in the same way that Judge is athletic, but much higher strikeout rate in the minor leagues than Judge ever had. And I'm just not as high on Spencer Jones as I know you are. So go ahead and make the case, and then later we'll debate on whether or not we're keeping Jones or whether or not we're going to move him.
Listen, this is what I'll say. I haven't really talked about Spencer Jones in detail since last spring training, and I'm going to admit the 200 strikeouts is definitely concerning. It's definitely concerning. It's definitely a red flag, and it's definitely kind of made me I'm not cooling off of him, but I'm less hot about it. I'm more okay with him being moved for the right deal rather than him being completely untouchable. I will admit that. But I will say he did make some mechanical adjustments, and look, I'm not going to buy in it like a guy taking BP and all of a sudden you get super excited about him, right? But he did make some mechanical adjustments. He's kind of got a similar leg kick to Judge now, where it's like this very kind of slow kind of rise, and then it kind of goes through the zone that way. So this is going to be a big year for him. This is kind of the year of, okay, are you for real or not? Let's see it here. So he'll probably start the season in AA. But if this guy hits, man, he has superstar potential if he turns out that way, or it could be a total bust, like all prospects are. But this is a guy who I think would be an elite defender in center, has great speed, great athleticism. And let's say Cody Bellinger either opts in, or let's say he opts out and he's gone, or he opts in and he's gone the season after that. He would slide in nicely in center there. But I don't know. This is going to be a big season for him. I'm more okay with him being traded now because of the 200 strikeouts, but I got to see an improvement in that department this year.
Yeah, 24 years old to be starting in AA, I would call that a failure. He needs to start at AAA. He needs to do a good enough job in spring training that he starts at AAA and is pounding on the door to be in the major leagues, but I just haven't seen it. As much as I dislike the man personally, which is the teacher man, Aaron Judge's swing doctor, who's constantly talking crap on Twitter, I would send Spencer Jones to work with him. Do exactly the left-handed version of Aaron Judge. Exactly. And number one prospect, guy I'm most excited about.
The Martian.
Jasson Dominguez, number 1 prospect, $5.1 million signing bonus out of the Dominican Republic, made his debut at 20 years old, 4 home runs in his first 7 games, 880 OPS in the minors last year. Going to be 22 years old. And his career has been a series of problems. Originally, after he was signed, he got robbed of that first year by COVID. And then, he struggled when he came back. And then when he finally made it, he finally accelerated through the minor leagues. He starts to, tear up the major leagues, and right away, UCL surgery. Last year, he's playing his ass off in the minor leagues. He probably could have been up by midseason, and I think he would have had a nice second half. But they leave him in the minor leagues until the last moment. They call him up to preserve his service time or whatever, and that ended up being a moot point. And then he struggled. Obviously, trying to take a job from a guy who's still on the team is a lot of pressure. It's difficult. He had some issues defensively. Nobody's denying that. In the minor leagues, he was seen as a solid defender in center field. Obviously not that comfortable in left field. He had some issues in center field, but I think that those were more victim of circumstance. It was one night in Seattle where people lost the ball for both teams. I saw Julio Rodriguez lose one in that same game. So, the Seattle sky, when the roof is open at twilight, can be very difficult. I still believe in my heart of hearts that Jasson Dominguez is going to be a big-time player for the Yankees this year.
It's all right there in front of us.
What do you hear?
So,
What do you say?
I want to get your thoughts here as we complete the top 10 or top 20 countdown on The Martian.
Everyone calls him the Martian. I call him the Lisan Al-Gaib. I think that this guy is going to be a special player. The thing, his defense in left is that it's concerning. Sure, he looked a little rough out there in the short amount of time that we saw him there. But with him, I don't know, Derek. You tell me. Like, would you rather have him in center and put Bellinger in left? Because
Yes.
left in Yankee Stadium is still big, and I would lean that way. But I feel like they're not going to do that. I feel like they're going to go Bellinger center and Jasson in left.
I 100% agree that that's how they're going to do it, and I agree with commenter Aaron Judge, MVP 29, who says Bellinger in left field, Dominguez in center field. That's exactly how I would run it. I think that Bellinger's getting a little bit older. I think he would translate fine to left field. I think he'd be fine doing it, and I think Dominguez, as a 22-year-old kid, would handle center field a little bit better. So that's the way I would go. Let's talk a little bit about our untouchables, okay? So we're going to each pick two guys, right, from that top 20 list. One of mine is Jasson Dominguez. There's no way, and I'd argue he'd probably be one for you too, right? You wouldn't deal him?
I honestly feel like we should exclude him because it's just known he's going to start for us, and he's untouchable. It's known.
So let's pick one other guy from the list that no matter who comes knocking, we're not dealing.
I'm going George Lombard Jr.
All right. Yeah, I mean, huge upside. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think I would go with Henry Lalane. I'd probably go with Lombard too, but just to make it interesting, I think next on the list would be Henry Lalane. I'm sorry.
Lalane.
Yeah, just 6'7" lefties who throw 95 with a nasty changeup don't grow on trees. So let's talk about the opposite of that. Who would we move? And I don't know what's up with my videos tonight. They keep shrinking on me. Which prospects do you think would be trade bait?
Trade bait. I think Will Warren, just because of he's kind of right there to be at the major league. So he's like a major league ready arm. And he is 25. He hasn't really impressed anybody at the major league level, obviously, but he is the 5th best ranked prospect. So that would probably be the guy that I would think is trade bait. I don't really see him making a huge impact at the next level. I don't know how other teams feel about him. And then I guess if we're doing two, Derek, the other one I'd pick is Everson Pereira for similar reasons as well, kind of knocking on the door. I don't really see, even if he was like a very good prospect and I thought pretty highly of him, I still don't see a place for him, honestly. I just don't see how you can get him like regular everyday at-bats. Yeah,
I kind of agree with both of your points. I think one more that I would throw in there, and this is going to piss off a lot of people, is Spencer Jones. I'm not a believer. I am not a believer in Spencer Jones at this point. Just too many swings and misses. I just don't think he's going to translate well. Guys don't go down in strikeouts typically when they go up a level, so it worries me. All right, let's go through our sleeper picks. Let's see if the video's tiny. No, this one came out normal. All right, so from the bottom 11 or bottom 10, from 11 through 20, who would you think from that list? And we've already talked about Lalane. Maybe one other name that you think could be a big time sleeper.
Brando Mayea. I think I really like his athleticism, the speed. I think that the way the game is headed that's really going to play well. He's really, really young. MLB.com doesn't even have him like making his estimated debut until 2028. So we're still like a few years away from there. It'll be interesting to see how he develops, which is fine because I don't really think there's really a spot for him at this moment, obviously, even if he were knocking on the door. But that is definitely a guy I think kind of as like a sleeper. Lalane, I love him too. But other than that, Mayea, I think is the sleeper pick for me.
Yeah. I'd maybe go with Zach Messenger. I like his stuff. I like his mechanics. I like his makeup. He could be somebody who steps up. All right, we're going to say goodnight to Terrence, whose camera's a little bit blurry right now. Internet going in and out there in L.A. Too many people watching football and all that stuff. But we're going to move on to a quick ad from the guys over at Foul Territory. Then I'll be back with voicemails. Once again, thanks, TK.
See you guys.
Here's my problem with grocery shopping. I don't want to waste precious time in life making the trip to the store, and I've got food allergies that make my in-person experience even more of a challenge. Those problems are now gone. Introducing Hungryroot to the FT fam.
Now we can all be bougie with our own personal shopper to handle the food shopping, including recs based on what you're looking to put in your body.
Just say, hey, Hungryroot, here's what I'm looking for, and they load up your cart with personalized recommendations. And those recs keep evolving as they learn about what you're into.
You're going to love Hungryroot as much as FT does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. Get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/FT and use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT, code FT to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/FT, code FT. Get after it, FT fam.
All right. So for those of you remaining after the ad, let's get to some voicemails.
Hey, Derek. Love the show. It's Bob from Ohio. I know you've been talking about are we as good as last year. I think we're getting close. I think we're on the right path, going for defense, pitching, better base running. Still like to see a decent third baseman pop up. I know the choices are slim right now, but if we could get somebody at around 250, 260, a good defensive player, I think that would be solid for us. What do you think? Thanks.
I do think it's interesting that the Yankees are kind of going with a pitching and defense approach right now. We haven't seen that, and I know fans love offense, and this might be just one of those years where they're not as exciting as a team, but they might be a very good team, a solid team. We'll see how it shakes out.
Hey, Derek. I'm a little concerned about 2026 payroll. So obviously the Yankees are making a lot of moves right now or whatever, and it's great, right? I think we're going to have a phenomenal 2025. However, if you look at if you could break down the free agent list and the payroll for 2026, right? Because from what I can tell, there's not a lot of money coming off the payroll for the 2026 season. It's just like, okay, how are we going to sign Kyle Tucker with only like 25 million or 30 million coming off the payroll books or whatever it is. But I'm probably not seeing something maybe you are. So yeah, if you could address that would be great.
So I don't think the Yankees would be that concerned about the payroll in one season, especially since they're going to get under that third level tax this year. But they've got Giancarlo coming off the books a couple of years after that. They've got Rodon eventually coming off the books. Garrett Cole's only got 4 years left. Really, you're hoping to get 3 good ones. You're hoping to get 2 good ones out of Stanton. Then you got some guys coming off the books. I don't think the Yankees would let money be a deterrent to getting Kyle Tucker. He's one of those guys who would be awesome at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, hi, Derek. It's Eddie again. Just got finished listening to your show today. I've been hearing a lot and seeing a lot about the Yankees making a possible trade for Brandon Lowe. Good, I think he's a switch hitter, but he bats lefty a lot. I know that. And he's a good hitter. And he always hurts the Yankees. He's only making like $10 million, which for Tampa's a lot of money, but, and you wouldn't have to go long term just this year and next, but you could put him at second base, and that would really help the lineup. And Tampa, they want to get rid of payroll, and they love prospects. So you could probably get him, take the salary, throw him some decent prospects, and put him at second. And then I think that's the bat you need. You want one more bat? There you go. I'd like to get your right.
So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop you there. That's a great call. Brandon Lowe is ideal fit. He could play second base. That would allow you to keep Jazz Chisholm over there at third base, where he looked more and more comfortable every day last year. He's a 4-win player, give or take, and I think he would do great at Yankee Stadium. His power alley is right to the short porch at Yankee Stadium, so I think he would do great. But the Rays probably don't want to deal him to the Yankees. They're already paying the Yankees $15 million a year to use their stadium. I can't see them trading him to the Yankees. And quite frankly, I think that they're going to keep him. I think that he's got some fan power there, and I don't think that they're going to move him. So I wouldn't expect them to trade him. But I would expect some more trades coming. I could see them moving Marcus Stroman. I think they want to get down under that $300 million mark. So we'll see how it goes. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching once again. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe. All that good stuff. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I'll see you next time.
Hey, while I've got you here, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Pinstripe Territory is the official Yankees podcast of the Foul Territory Network. We are home to the #1 most watched MLB postgame show on YouTube since 2021. We're here after every Yankees game and for reactions to all the best news and rumors during the offseason. Be a part of the show by calling into the voicemail 718-899-1068. Try to keep it clean for me. And if you ever miss us on YouTube, be sure and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go ahead and rate us 5 stars. It'll help other people find the show. Thanks for watching. See ya.